Hi everyone, this is Rinki. Welcome back to another wonderful episode of INCI with Rinki. This is episode 28. And if you do not know me, I am Rinki. I'm a cosmetic scientist and I have developed nearly 500 products across 3 continents in the 15 years of working in the beauty and personal care world. I have worked with indie brands, global conglomerates, and everything in between. And one thing I have learned that the development cycle and the development model is not same across all different categories and all different companies. Are you confused? Well, let me make it simplify for you. If you are a beauty enthusiast or just trying or dreaming for creating a skincare brand and just thinking of let's dip into the world of skincare or hair care, but not sure where exactly to start from. This episode is actually for you. Someone who is eager to start their skincare line or want to build a new brand. But what is the difference between a white label and a bespoke? Do you really need to own a formula? Or where do you even start? Who do you develop your products with? Can you create something custom without breaking the bank? Well, if this question is ringing a bell, this episode is definitely for you. So, today we are talking about different developmental models that exist in the beauty and personal care world. So, whether you want to choose from white label or a completely new hybrid model, and stay tuned, we're gonna explain. Joining me today, I have Hazim Sawaf, founder for Seven Hopes London. And together we're going to talk about strategy, innovation, and everything possible with the skincare and the beauty developmental product. So, Hazim, welcome to the show. Tell me all about Seven Hopes.
Hi, Rinki. Thank you so much, and so happy to be with you today. Well, in a nutshell, Seven Hopes is a model that I have created 6 or 7 years ago, basically to provide skincare entrepreneurs like a one-stop hub solution, transforming a concept or idea into ready-to-go finished product to the market. That is in brief what we do. And of course, within the solution that we are offering, we offer like so many different solutions that would fit every client based on their vision, resources, and time.
Perfect. Well, brands out there, or if there is a founder who does not understand where to actually begin, how does Seven Hopes help them to make their vision alive? Do you offer different developmental models? I know you definitely have a tiered approach. So let's get into understanding of what does white label, bespoke, or something completely unique at what you call it as gray label. But what does that even mean? And why have you came up with a tiered approach? Let's get into the details of that.
Of course, well, as mentioned, Seven Hopes has been created to solve a problem of a dreamer who would love to develop and create their own brand or line and products. And they are struggling, how can I do that? That is the main intention of creating Seven Hopes. So we actually manage the full product development with the clients step by step. But before we start, we just study with the client more insights and understanding their objectives and their background about the industry. Since we provide like different solutions, as we mentioned, starting from the bespoke to the easy, ready to go white label, and even for the complicated hybrid model that we have created and innovated ourselves, the gray label, every solution would fit different client based again in their vision, experience, resources, and here we start providing them all solutions and we start to filter which option would fit them. Of course, they define which solution based on the resource that they have, the experience that they have. Experienced clients, they have the option to go for the bespoke, of course, because they have very good knowledge. Ready to the new to the market might go for the easiest way, and innovators might go for like different solutions. We start by understanding again the clients, again objectives, what kind of target and region they would love to approach, what kind of solution they would love to offer, what claims they would love to provide for their market, their clientele profile, demographics, price range, competitors. All these are insights that we consider, and based on that, we start filter to provide the client with like more fitting solution. I hope that was clear.
Yeah, that definitely is clear to me. I personally have worked with a very small beauty startup as well as the largest name on earth in the beauty and personal care world, and I have worked from licensing model to like co-developing solutions, co-owning the IP solutions, as well as completely bespoke. But I do have to say, when I stumbled upon your gray model, as you say it definitely, to me, it's like struck. That's not a model that I have came across. So will you demystify why actually have you created the gray models? Because you have been in the business for like fairly long years. It's like, what observation with working with the early stage founders, because you work with very niche brands and like very early stage setup environment. It's like, what have you observed that made you create this gray model as, and like, what is the uniqueness of the gray models that actually creates the harmony between the two far extremes of the product development cycle?
That's a really good question. And to answer that, let's define what are the three models before we go ahead. So, although the white label might look familiar, but these are like on the shelf, ready to go, let's say, products or maybe formulas. These formulas are ready, has been tested, ready to go. We can just go for production. We give licensing, and the client would just put their own package, label, or whatsoever, and they can launch the product in the market. The other extreme professional side of the development is the bespoke, which is again fully customized, fully designed as per the client. So we again meet all the specs regarding claims, sensorial, performance, target cost, everything. But that is the hard route, let's say, and that is the most time consuming. In between, there are actually kind of very promising clients. They have big dreams, but they saw that this is a lot for them, maybe financially. And here we feel this kind of pain, how you can have this kind of passion and vision that is really, really working, but you might be struggling. Okay, that might be quite risky for myself as a resources. And here I decided to provide a new solution, which is the gray label, which is a bridge between these two solutions, the white label and the bespoke. Simply, it's a solution in between that will provide, again, fully customized projects as per the client vision. They will not pay for the product development, but of course, they need to compromise about some things. These are selective projects, so not all the projects are approved to be gray label. We only approve projects that are really promising, that's really smart, that looks promising for us for retaining a good, successful story and a client for us. So again, as mentioned, this is zero development cost, fully customized, and like in between as a resources, and even the time for the development is again like a hybrid model in between both of them.
Okay, let's break the binary for people who are not from our industry or trying to get into our industry, or maybe they work on the much more of a brand side, or they are with the retail partners in UK or US, wherever in the world. They do work in the beauty, but they're not so familiar with the developmental model. So let's simplify it for them. So when you say white label, that means the formula and the complete formulation chassis, it's already preset exact to the percentage. Your team has already done stability, compatibility for it, and like all the brand have to do is to decide the brand name, the artwork, and what they want to write on the packaging, and they boom, they can like ready to go to the market. But as for testing is concerned, consumer product efficacy or safety report, everything is already done by your team. Is that a correct understanding?
Exactly. So these are you consider like your library of
Okay.
your products or formulas that you have invested in developing. All or any formula must have been stability tested, microbiological tested if it need, safety assessed. It's actually in compliance with the UK and the EU regulation. That is the must. That is non-negotiable thing. Uh, the good thing that they, again, as mentioned, they are on like ready to go or on the shelf formulas, but you might be limited with the options. Again, imagine that you are going to like a store, you just pick up the product as it is. You are not flexible to change a lot of these product specification and parameters.
Yeah.
If you are lucky to find like a lovely range, then you are lucky in this case. Other way is might be to go different solution, which is the bespoke, generally speaking.
And like obviously bespoke does take time and like takes complexity. So let's understand the timeline cycle before we get into the cost piece. Let's understand the timeline piece of it. So if there is a founder that comes to you and they want to launch a brand and they want to choose your library formulas, as we call in our worlds, it's like from concept to store, how many weeks or months are we talking about to make it happen? Like how soon they can like actually have the product, whether they're selling it through DTC, through Instagram shop, through TikTok shop, or like brick and mortar, like the shelf. How soon they can like make it happen, like for starting talking with you versus boom, I'm in shelf, like, or I'm ready to sell. Like, what is the timeline we are talking here?
It varies if you are speaking about the bespoke or the white label.
White
The
label
white
first.
label White label could be again once we have everything in place, like the package, the label, everything. It might be like within 4 to 6 weeks we can have the products ready.
Wow.
Yep, yep. Maybe the maximum like maybe 8 weeks. Bespoke, of course, that is totally different story. As we break down the stages from development, then testing, then contract manufacturing. And it might be not less than 9 months if you are so lucky and if you are clear
I
about
would
your
say if you're
vision.
lucky. I would say
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're lucky.
exactly. If you
Yeah.
are lucky,
It
yes.
depends how soon have you made your mind, really.
Yeah, generally speaking, it's more than a year, 12
Yeah.
months. And again, it depends. Some clients are really clear about their vision. They might have their own range and they are extending their portfolio. So we might be working on their projects. So we are stocking the raw materials. We might just go for, again, developing a complementary product or whatsoever. So it's quite, again, flexible based on case by case. But generally speaking, I would say like 12 months, maybe more. And if you're
Okay.
lucky, 9 months. Yes.
Okay. So we talked about two extreme, like yeah, somebody, I mean it shocks me, like when I've started my beauty journey 15 years ago, I never thought it was feasible. I mean, like let alone like feasible in early 2000 to even think of like, hey, I want to launch a brand X, and to make it happen into the reality, to hold the bottles or tubes in hand, something less than a 2 months. So that's pretty much shocking how the world of the cosmetic industry is has evolved, and how easy it is to like launch a brand, obviously with compromises and like what you want perspective. So from a cost perspective, if somebody wants to do a white label, so what kind of cost are they looking at, and like how does the licensing works? Because obviously if it's a white label formula, there is a likelihood that there are like like similar products are out there in the market. So how does the cost modeling work? Is it per formula, or is it tied to a certain x amount of units, and at what point the brands are like offer scalability? It's like, I mean, how small is the run size to the how large Seven Hopes can offer from less scalability angle?
Lovely. Uh, Regarding the cost of the white label, of course, as you can imagine, it would vary from range to range, to product and pack size to pack size.
Okay.
Bear in mind that it is again, it could be tweaked as per the client again vision and request. So the same product could be again in different or variant pack sizes, and of course that would change the prices. Uh, Also in the white label, we have like a niche, maybe luxurious lines, and we have like kind of basic daily personal care. So again, price might be very, very cost efficient up to a premium maybe pricing. The MOQ, which might be the thing that most of the clients would love to understand more about it. In our case, most of the products we offer like around 1,000 to 2,000 units based on the line and the pack size. Sometimes we might provide like a flexible first order only if the client is really promising and they have like a wide range. So again,
For
you
white label, do you
actually,
mean? Sorry,
that is
sorry
for
to
the white
interject.
label.
For white label, so there is a possibility because a lot of the time they want to like try out TikTok shop. That's happening a lot, or Instagram shop where the brand is building or they're testing the concept. So I would say a founder friendly, approachable model that exists with you, even from a like a library formulas. So that's pretty good. So let's understand. So I'm going to give you a basic example of like, let's say a 50 ml moisturizer. So I think that's the most common product in our industry from a size perspective and from an offering perspective. So if there is a brand out there, they definitely would have a moisturizer into the portfolio. So if somebody is trying to do a library formula of a 50 ml moisturizers, it's like what's their minimum size and what is the max size that you can like cater to?
When you say size, do you mean the pack size?
No, I mean like from the run size, like from smallest unit
Quantities?
to highest number of units in a single run that you can cater for a 50 ml
Yes,
moisturizer.
yes. Uh, for such as a product, let's say we can starting from 1,000 units. That would be the minimum order quantity in most cases. And internally, like in one run, we can go up to 5,000 units.
Okay.
Bigger quantities, we can provide like different runs, again, internally, but also extremely big orders. We have a collaboration with, again, contract manufacturers who can have like this kind of big capacity once we require this kind of scale up orders. And we are authorized to transfer the knowledge to our partners, and we take care of everything.
Okay, so you do have because I think that's where it gets very strategic, especially for the white label formulas, because it's like how do you take that from 5,000 or 10,000 pieces to million pieces if the brand is successful? Like how does the horizon works from a scalability angle? So it's good that there is already a proven model. Well, that's pretty much answers the cost complexity piece. Actually, the scalability and complexity piece of white label. So it's like, what is there a minimum cost piece that you can address, or is it like formula dependent? It's like so I'm talking from a budget angle. So it's like if someone is starting
Yeah.
a brand and they want to trying to gauge, okay, how much money or bank in cash, like cash in bank, actually, I need to have. If I want to, let's say, I want to do like a luxury portfolio, and like because generally luxury starts with a like a lesser quantity because like the GBP value is like higher, and they want to take still a white label formula from you, and they want to like launch it. So like is there tied to a cost per unit piece, or is it like okay, there is a minimum opening order value that you want from the founders before you actually start the journey? Obviously we want all the brands to be successful.
Yep. Yep. Well, we don't have like a limitation or a target, let's say, sales volume or order volumes. We are actually observing the quantities that we can easily achieve and could be still healthy project for us. Let's consider a scenario. So for bear in mind that we work in more of healthy, natural, again, skincare products,
Yeah,
which is again an edge would add its cost. Again, based on the client request, if they are looking for more on only natural, maybe sometimes organic, could be Cosmos compliance. As you can imagine, each of these claims would be reflected on the cost.
of
But
course.
let's assume, roughly speaking, a nice, lovely cream that would cost, let's say, £5, let's say, per unit, 50 gram, and the minimum order quantity, let's say 1,000. So the client should be aware that for such a product would not cost less than 5K, for example.
Okay.
That would be again reflected on again the product form. If it is oil, again serum, could be toner. Toner is a little cheaper, of course, or a bit
Because there is
moderate
water.
size. Of course, as you can imagine, detergents again, or maybe washes are quite more economic, not so much these days, especially for natural options. But again, it varies. But again, the £5 would be like maybe an example. Of course, could be go up and down, but this could give an estimation. So I would assume if a client is looking to have, let's say, 3 or 4 products, they need to consider every product would cost not less than that,
Okay.
especially that you need to bear in mind the packaging, maybe labeling, maybe logistics, fulfillments, or whatsoever. So this would be, even if you're going to pay only 3 or 4K, you need to bear in mind this kind of volume and resources because you definitely will need to spend or more on some other services.
Perfect. So let me clarify to all the listeners out there the real gaps of the beauty and the product development market. So when Hazim is talking about a £5 cost, it's I'm assuming it's a much more of a turnkey price, which means your cost of raw materials, your cost of production, your developmental fees, and as well as like everything from logistics to get it delivered to your brand warehouse. It's like all in. So I think that's like coming from the product development background where I have like put hundreds of products in the market. It's quite attractive from a cost piece, especially at that MOQ size, I would say, especially for the luxury products. Again, because for luxury products, packaging drives a crazy amount of value in your, so as you like something that you buy in 1000 units versus 25,000 units, the cost can like rapidly shift, and your cost price per unit will rapidly scale down as you scale to the run order of 20,000 units, 50,000 units, or 100,000 units. So don't be scared. I think like it's a available option to start, that you do not have a liability to build and have a stock of 20,000 units before you have proven your model or your brand success story, that the product market fit need to happen before you come to the market. So I think having the options to go for a smaller runs and have that like somebody else to do like the total the development piece for you, it's a feasible solutions. It's a right to choice as a brand founder that if you want to take. Now let's leap into completely different. A bespoke. Our finest eye creams. Eye creams are generally much more costlier than the other products because it actually like goes on a high precision area. And if you look into any brands, they tend to always priced higher than their regular 50 ml moisturizers, and the common eye creams are generally at 50 ml. So somebody wants to develop like a bespoke eye cream of a 15 ml. So what kind of developmental time frame and cost are they looking? Like how much cash in bank we are talking about from even to like start with?
Okay, cost of production might not be that much different from the white label. Of course, it's going to be a little bit higher because again, the materials might not be up to the quantity that we purchase in the white label. As you can imagine, the word economy of scale is
Yes.
a really secret word here. So the bigger the quantity, everything would make our life easier. So the cost of the material drop, the cost of production drop, energy drop, everything. So the same product that might cost £5, at bigger volumes, it might drop more than 50% of that cost at extreme big values. On the white label, sorry, in the bespoke, the client need to bear the investment in the beginning. As you
Yeah.
can imagine, so you are developing your own formula. You own fully the intellectual property, fully customized. You own all the testing and safety assessment and regulatory side. So on top of that cost, you need to consider this kind of investment. Some clients might spread that cost on the first order, which might be tricky, gonna be not so efficient because that is a one-time life cost. So the time that the money that you have invested in the development, that would be like, again, you will do just once the first time, but you will not do that later on. Maybe you can just go for some microbiological testings.
So do you mean
Uh,
like the instead of paying upfront, it's kind of amortized into the COGS? Is that what you mean?
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. That is what we would advise to amortize it over the product. That
Okay.
exactly. Otherwise, you will find it quite challenging to cover this cost from just the first order. That is not,
Yeah.
again, feasible. Imagine that you are setting up your shop and you are actually spending on decoration, setting up equipment, and everything, and you need to cover all this cost like from the first year. That is not so easy, but you need to amortize that on like a lifespan for the project. That is the main difference for the cost. So in brief, the bespoke need like an upfront payment bigger than the white label, but on long term, you fully own these intellectual properties and you are owning an asset which is your own formulas.
Perfect. I think that definitely answers it very well in a simplifying toner. So let's understand what's your specialty. So let's understand between the two extreme worlds where you can start something in like you can launch under 5K, you can launch your first products in 2 months' time to versus you're looking into tens of thousands of dollars where you have a custom formula. And bear in mind, listeners, you are paying for the lab, you're paying for the equipment, you're paying for the lab time, prototyping, all the iterations, and generally, iterations can go somewhere between 4 iterations to 28 iteration. Basically, it depends as a founder how clear you are on what you want. And I have seen brands who have gone like 2 years into like reiterating because the market has pivoted or the brand strategy has pivoted. So the clear are you are from the beginning, the shorter is your product development cycle and the sooner you are in the market, to be honest. So let's get into our next question. So we have talked about definitely three different models, tiered approach. We have talked about IP. How like you have worked with so many early stage founders across the last 6 7 years. It's like what do you see in the founders? It's like what are they most comfortable at? Like it's like what level of IP ownership you have observed that the founders are most comfortable about, and how many people in like in the very beginning of a brand building understand the importance of IP?
Most of the clients at the beginning, of course, they might be interested in owning fully the IP, which I totally understand. And for successful brands, that is a must, that is not non-negotiable, again, option. It might be a burden once they just consider the costs and if they are ready for that kind of resources or no, and to what extent could that be a burden. And here, sometimes the client might start compromising and try to find a smart solution, especially at the beginning. Let's test the market before we go that way, and maybe keep the bespoke and owning the IP later on, which is the bespoke, I mean. So definitely that would be, I think, all the clients would love. But again, it's a matter of compromising based on the resources they have.
Perfect. I think what I have understood, like when I've spoken to a very early stage founders, everybody wants to own the IP. They just do not understand what level of complexity or cost that's integrated with like owning the IP of the formula, because it's basically a creation. So and like the creation takes time and the creation takes effort, and the payment is basically awarding to that effort. So that leads to my next question, which is how much freedom a founder would have when somebody is choosing a gray model, let's say, which is not quite white, not quite bespoke, but like somewhere in between. So, what level of flexibility a founder would have, and like what kind of iteration are we talking about? Do you have a limit or like limit on number of revisions or a limit on the timing spent on the number of revisions, or how do you cater to that?
We actually offer internally we have like a lot of trials to meet and match the client again objectives regarding the claim, sensorial, performance, everything. So internally here, once we release a sample to the client, that is after many trials. We provide the client like up to 3 times of tweaking or enhancements, free included in the package. After that, we might charge per sample extras just to cover the cost. It's not making any money, but just to cover the cost and the raw material that we are using. If that would answer the question.
Perfect. I think that answers is very clearly. I think again, it all depends on the founders. It's like how clear are they from the very beginning, or even like a brand working with you. Sorry for the like I think like I lost connection in between. So I think I'm back. So we
Yeah.
were talking about gray label and the flexibility of gray label. So we have talked about cost, we have talked about timeline between the three different model, and many of the founders often like have to do like a equilibrium between budget versus launch deadline, because sometimes you might have a lot of budget, but you probably are trying to tap on a trend that is happening now. So you have to launch quickly. And sometimes you have might have like a open-ended timeline of when you want to launch it, especially the DTC based brand, which are not trying to hit a retailer's planogram. Let's say somebody wants to launch a super drug or a space NK, or let's say any major UK retailers, they only launch new products at a certain point of time of the year. So the product need to be at the warehouse of that retailer on a certain date. So you back calculate all your dates accordingly to decide when your product development cycle should end, when your testing should end, and when you need to go to the production. So coming and explaining that, have you seen a much of a founders now choosing to the gray model, because it's I understand it's quite new to your portfolio? Have you seen the founders to move to that paradigm of shift? Is that like what you're observing?
Yes, of course. Most probably they are actually bespoke seekers, but they might not be ready for that. So either they need to give out this kind of opportunity, or maybe they might go for the gray label solution, which again is it's a solution. So you can take it, you can try it, you can start launching, create your awareness, your existence of your brand, and later on you can have your own bespoke. What's really interesting is that we actually give the client the allowance for like a time frame that they can own the formula. So even
Okay.
if they are starting with a gray label, they might have like up to 6 to 12 months of time frame that they can still purchase this IP. So
Oh,
this could
okay.
be a good option for them to again transform to own the fully the formula IP.
Oh, I think that is like really exceptional. I definitely did not expect that. It's like, so is it what is the trigger of like somebody really liking the gray level, gray library, I would say, or the gray model, and they choose a Formula X and then they actually like launch it to the market. Did they have to hit a certain number of units or a certain number of kilo in bulk before that trigger happens, or like or there is like an upfront cost pay up if you pay up, why the formula is yours is like, or at what point of time you even trigger the conversation?
Yep, yep. Well, as mentioned, it is again for selective projects. Not all the clients would be eligible for the gray label. It need to be again economically feasible, as you can imagine. So again, that is included within the contract manufacturing agreement. That would cover a bit of the cost that we will bear on the development. Of course, there should be like a down payment, like the credit of your project. That will not be a cost for the development. No, as if you are having like a credit, will be deducted from your full order. So, of course, there might be a higher MOQ for these projects.
Okay.
And again, they are for selective projects that we find it is really promising. It will add a value and could be a good storytelling, let's say, for Seven Hawks.
Perfect. I think that that is like very clear and like very straightforward, and I love it. So, I like one of my last questions. It's not quite last, but we are almost there. What mistakes do you often see the first time founders make when they're starting a new brand building?
Maybe not having a full concept and full business strategy. It's going to be very risky to launch a product without having a clear strategy, defining again your selling strategy, marketing strategy, your budget, defining your target audience, channel of sales. All these are questions that you need to address it smartly. And you need to be aware that you are allocating the eligible budget for that.
Perfect. Now, finally, my last question before we finish today. What are the current consumer trends you are observing that in the work in development now? What are the trends that the current stage beauty founders are actually tapping into?
I find a lot of clients are now driven by science. They are following and chasing brands who are having scientific claims, scientific concepts, biotechnology driven projects. Exosomes are one of them. Neurocosmetics, which is a skin and mind concept, is really a lovely concept. PDRN or salmon DNA is another one. And of course, that is beside the microbiome and another lovely ones. But I will go for exosome, PDRN, and the neurocosmetics.
Well, there you go, all my listeners. You have it. Exosome, I do agree with you. Exosome is one of the trends I actually have forecasted right after in cosmetics. And I did one of the episode catering to like the latest exosome launches in cosmetics. So I will leave the link for that episode into the description. So if you have not listened to it, please do listen. To everyone listening, and if you are building a skincare brand and you want to stand out without burning out, you have three different models to choose from that can lead you to success. Seven Hope is definitely here to help you and to guide you through the journey through a founder friendly and scalability approach. So if you want no more BS and no fluff founder fluffier conversation and much more behind the scenes truth of the beauty science, please tap that follow icon now. Subscribe to the channel Inky with Rinki. Give me a review and share this episode with someone who actually can help with the information, and someone maybe just a step away from launching their next big brand. And together, we can just not build a brand, but create something unique for our whole world loving community. I'm Rinki. I'm a cosmetic scientist. I'm a formulation nerd and your straight talking guide for a smarter brand building. Catch you next time. And remember, every great product starts with a great formula. So build a strong formula right from the beginning and give your whole heart to it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in with today's episode of Inky with Rinky podcast. Thank you, Hazim, for joining in. Hope you all have a lovely rest of the day and see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rinki. I was so happy with you today.
Perfect. Thank you.